Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Over the Moon. Over the Moon is a 2020 Netflix animated musical that follows the story of Fei Fei. After she loses her mother, she decides to create a rocket ship and literally fly to the moon in order to remind her father of his true love. So I was really excited for this film, partially because it is directed by Glenn Keane and John Cars. Keane, particularly, I love. He's an animation legend, and obviously a new concept for an animated film, a musical. I was on board, and it was a multicultural animated film. However, we do have two white directors and a white screenplay writer, but at least our cast was authentic to Chinese culture and it looked to really pay great respects. Somewhat in the vein of Coco. That's why it kills me that I'm very mixed when it comes to Over the Moon. It wasn't this magical experience that I was hoping to have. Hmm. But let's go ahead and talk about the positives first. Well, let's get the easy one out of the way. And that big positive is the animation, which is, of course, stunning. Its 3D animation style is really beautiful. And I have to say, at first, I was a little bit taken aback by how they animated the people because it sits at this really weird place between a little bit cartoonish, but also really detailed. But as we went on, I really appreciated how our characters were animated, how the light really drew to their face, the eyelashes, the hair, everything about the human characters looked amazing. On the surface, it seems like run of the mill 3D animation, but as you really look at these characters, there is so much more detail and appreciation to be seen. Plus, we get those big moments of beautiful color and these big bombastic animated sequences that bring some energy and life into the picture. I also really loved the message of the film. We are centering around grief when it comes to this film. Grief of a loved one, grief of a lover, and how you move on from that, how you handle that, internalize that, and how are you able to process and move forward with your life without letting the grief shackle you down. And this film handles that really heavy message very, very well. I also really did enjoy our main character of Fei Fei. And not only her voice work, but the voice work of the entire cast, I think, was very strong. And then I mentioned the multiculturalism behind it, but I do like that we brought in some Chinese mythology. There is some Chinese Mandarin spoken in the film as well. Obviously, English is the predominant language between the moon pies and festival, as well as the goddess herself and that entire fable that this complete story centers around. I was glad that the filmmakers folded in more cultural aspects to what could be just an American standard animated story. So then, what didn't I love so much when it came to Over the Moon? Well, the music is going to be my first complaint. We go all over the board with this music in the film, but overall, all of these original songs are very poppy and actually quite jarring in most cases. Rather than telling the story through song, we get very strange moments that just didn't work for me. Particularly anything with the moon goddess, I did not like. I mean, she is basically like a diva pop star in the film, which is a choice in and of itself, but then to have her give this big pop star Ariana Grande esque opening musical number, it was, I didn't like it. And really, there weren't many songs in here that stood out. They either had a nice message that I enjoyed, but as a song didn't quite work, or they were fun to listen to, but seemed quite vapid. And unfortunately, I'm not really going to be remembering any of the music moving forward from this film. Also, our characters overall were a mess. I just talked about the moon goddess, and she didn't really work for me in this film. The dog, played by King Jung, did not work for me at all in this film. The little brother is horrible. He is so annoying. And I was like, no, I would probably try to boot you off this moon right now because he was just too much. And where we get with these characters by the end of the film ultimately doesn't feel earned. We don't have enough time to really develop these relationships and get to this place where we end at the end of this film. And so it kind of rings hollow rather than this really touching, heartfelt moment between family. Plus, the character design and the world building on the moon was weird, to say the least. I didn't really understand it. I don't know why it was the way it was, why this city was this technicolor thing. It just didn't really make sense to the rest of what we had built. And honestly, I kind of wish we had just stayed on Earth and used the moon goddess in a different type of way to teach the lesson and been able to stay with this family structure and this child who is trying to move on from losing her mother and allowing her father to move on from losing her mother. And I think everything would have just hit more impactful if we had found some sort of self-discovery adventure that allowed her to continue to grow with the people she knew rather than up on this technicolored moon land. And with the technicolored moonland and the several annoying characters and the fact that none of the jokes at all really landed with me, I came out of this feeling as though Over the Moon was intended to be for much smaller children than both its messaging and ideas really warranted. Going in, I didn't anticipate this to be for small children. And with that heavier message of grief, I also didn't really think this needed to be aimed at such small children. But the entire tone of the film and the look of the film overall lent itself to a younger age demographic, which has its place, but it didn't quite gel for this material. So overall, Over the Moon has some admirable qualities to it, and it is a beautiful film to look at from the surface with a beautiful core message. However, it's one that I'm going to forget about pretty quickly. That's such a bummer. But if you do have kids under the age of 10, I think this is certainly worth a watch for the entire family with your Netflix subscription. If you're an animation fan, I mean, it's not really going to hurt for you to check this out, but it's certainly not the next animated classic. So that is my review of Over the Moon. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Over the Moon? And what is your favorite multicultural animated film? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!